Okay, it's just a little after 1, so I think we'll get started. I just wanted to first of all say that we really appreciate you all opting to be here today and to join us. We know that you're all really busy. We'd like to talk to you about the cybersecurity program. I joined CANARIE as the cybersecurity program manager late last year, and yeah, we have some really exciting things that we would like to speak to you about. So next slide, please, Christina. So here's a list of those who will be speaking. First of all on the list is myself, and like I said, I'm the cybersecurity program manager here. We also have Mark from CIRA, who is joining us to talk about the CIRA DNS project. That is the first thing that we've launched. We also have Jill from CanSSOC, who will be talking about the threat feed. And we also have representatives from the University of Waterloo here to talk about their piece of the platform for the IDS. As well, joining me will be my colleague, Lamar. She's not on this list, but she'll be joining us as well. Next slide, please, Christina. Just some basic housekeeping. The webinar will be recorded. It'll be a link to it will be sent to you once this is done. You'll have your choice of either English or French. Just as an FYI, it's only the audio and video that will be done. So if you ask any questions online, those will not be part of the record. Next slide, please, Christina. So a presentation of what we're going to be speaking to you about. We're going to be talking to you basically about the Cybersecurity Initiatives Program, or the CIP as we call it. We're going to talk to you about how you or your organization is able to join. We're going to talk about the first 3 that we've launched, and then we're going to have a Q&A. We do have a fairly busy agenda. If we do go long, we will be basically leaving this open. So if you don't feel like you've got a chance to ask, please feel free to hang around, and we'll absolutely get your question answered, even if we need to stay a little bit later. Next slide, please, Christina. So let's talk about basically why we're doing this. We're all very connected nowadays. Every device in your organization, whether it's your laptop, whether it's your phones, whether it's your servers, whether it's your network, are very susceptible to many cyber threats that are out there right now. Given that we are so linked, we are only as good or as strong as the weakest link that we have. And it's really important to understand that this is not just an issue with IT. This should be really a large priority for your whole organization. And a national approach to cybersecurity is only possible when the whole sector decides to work together. When it comes to securing the whole sector, we are stronger than the sum of our parts. So that's our idea here. Next slide, please, Christina. So what is the cybersecurity program? We're basically, our goal, or our mandate, is to build programs and to fund them to basically let us totally strengthen the cybersecurity posture for the National Research and Education Network, or that whole space in general. Next slide, Christina. So some of the language that we use, like most things with IT, we love acronyms. So we're going to talk a fair bit about the National Research and Education Network. You will hear us use that language very often. We have 13 provincial and territorial partners that we basically work with across the National Research and Education Network. And we've basically partnered with several organizations, CanSSOC and CIRA being the first two, to basically deliver these programs to our end users. So we have about roughly 200 of them that we basically work with and that we're looking to fund. Next slide, please, Christina. So what does the CIP do? We fund and deliver programs to strengthen the EO's cybersecurity posture. That could include giving them different software, different hardware devices, just information, training. So there's a number of ways that we are doing this and that we are really working to help make sure that that our EOs are really protected. Next slide, please, Christina. So as an EO, why would you want this? So it's really important to understand that we are looking to augment any of the infrastructure that you have in place. We're not looking to, to change it, to swap it out. We're looking to basically to be there and to offer you different options to augment what you already have. It basically lets you work with many experts that are very specific to the R&E space, and increase your team's security, their knowledge, their expertise. Basically, we're looking to really strengthen the overall posture at your EO, and there's no direct cost for you. Everything that we do is 100% totally funded by us. Next slide. So the delivery of these different programs. So we work very closely with our NREN partners, who then work with our EOs. The NREN partner that you work with is your primary place to be able to ask to be basically part of this program. There is no direct cost to the EOs basically to join, and we basically bill the partners that we work with directly. So for your organization as an EO, there's very little overhead for you basically to be involved in this. Next slide, Christina, please. So with the timeline for the program, we launched the first 3 initiatives November the 30th. The current one that we are working on now is the CIRA DNS. We're hoping basically to have this, well, we're not hoping to have it. You can basically access this now. If you need any help with that, you can reach out to your NREN partner. We're looking basically to launch 2 or 3 new initiatives between March 31st of 2021 and March 31st of 2023. March 31st of 2023 is the deadline to basically join any of these, as that's the final year of our mandate right now. So you can join basically from now to March 31st of 2023. And as we launch new initiatives, you can join on with them as we go. Next slide, Christina, please. So who determines what we fund? Well, so this is a great question. We are really looking to you guys to shape what we do and what we offer. So we have designed the Cybersecurity Advisory Committee. This is leaders from Canada's local universities, colleges, CEGEPs, not-for-profit organizations, and private sector organizations. And the idea of them is to help to shape which of these we will be moving on with, and really to help guide us with what we think is the best option for the next programs that we decide that we're going to do, or that we're going to offer. Next slide, please, Christina. So when we're choosing these initiatives, we're really looking on things that are very sustainable, very affordable, that has real mass appeal. So of the EOs that we work with, we've got 200 or so. We want to make sure that that these really appeal to most of them, if not all of them. And you know, we also want things that we're able to really measure, and that we're really able to see what impact they're really making out in the field. Next slide, please, Christina. So the first three that we've launched are the CIRA D-Zone DNS, the CanSSOC threat feed, and the intrusion detection, which is formerly known as the JSP, for those of you who may have been involved in that. They are very much meant to work independently on their own, but they're also meant to be able to work to really combine being able to offer really great protection. Next slide, please, Christina. So this is a basic, really simple overview of each of these. If we look at the CIRA DNS, basically what we're doing here is we're trying to get all of your end users who are out, they're on the internet, they're accessing different websites, and to really protect them from going to places that have known issues. So that's more working on the user type level. We've got the CanSSOC threat feed that basically uses and works with a number of different feeds, totally consolidates them, and it's a curated feed that's basically meant to really protect specifically R&E type organizations from different options and different threat factors that we're seeing. And then there's the IDS, or the former JSP program, which once again is meant to sense any information, and we actually report that information back to one of 3 platforms, and we'll have somebody here from the University of Waterloo to talk to us about one of those platforms a little bit later. Next slide, please, Christina. So just a really quick overview of what each does. And as you can see, each of these is meant to really address a certain area and a certain need. But when you add them all, they offer you a really great protection that many of these EOs, or many of the EOs out there don't currently have. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura Lamar now, and she's going to talk to you about how to participate in the program.
Thanks, Kevin. Can you go to the next slide, please, Christina? So I'm going to talk about the eligibility criteria, and this is where we get our list of EOs that we reference all the time with our NREN partners. So to participate in the CIP, which is our Cybersecurity Initiatives Program, every organization must be connected to Canada's National Research and Education Network, which is what we call our NREN. You have to be a member of an organization of the NREN partner and connected to that NREN partner through an autonomous network. So this means that you don't connect through somebody else's network. It's your network will be the one that is protected through this cybersecurity initiatives. You also must be a post-secondary institution, a non-federal research facility, or a center of excellence. Next slide, please, Christina. So the participant obligations that we're expecting is basically providing some staff time so that you can participate in the initiative deployment and the operation. We will ask for you to contribute some metrics through to March 2024 for any of the initiatives deployed by your organization. You do not have to choose all the initiatives. You can choose the initiatives that appropriately suit your organization. And after you deploy every initiative, we will request a short report is submitted back to us. Next slide, please, Christina. So how do you participate? Well, the first thing is, if you're curious, if you are an eligible organization, you can reach out to your NREN partner to confirm your eligibility. If you are eligible, they have a link for you to submit a short participation form that gets submitted right through to CANARIE. And what we do with that information that you submit is we put together an agreement, and we're calling that the Organization Cybersecurity Collaboration Agreement, and much easier to say OCCA. So we send that off to you for execution, and this basically is your ticket to be part of the cybersecurity program. So once that's executed, you only have to execute it once, and you are part of the cybersecurity program, which enables you to be part of any initiative that you choose to be so part of. Next slide, Christina. So some of the questions that we came up that you might have is, do we have to implement all of the funded initiatives? And no, this is basically, you choose what is best for your organization. You might already have implemented some initiatives that are similar that you find meet your requirements, which is fine. So you can decide as every initiative is launched. What goes along with that is, are these initiatives intended to replace what we already have in place? And no, they're not. The intention is that all eligible organizations are connected to the NREN so that we have that standard baseline of making sure that everyone is protected through these cybersecurity technologies, processes, and skills. So our main aim is just to fill in any of the gaps that exist and just provide those tools and processes that might assist you in making sure that we do have that standard baseline across the country. Next slide, please, Christina. Is there a deadline to participate in this CIP? Well, you can participate at any time up to March 31st, 2023, so that you can actually take part in the funding, which is till the end of our mandate, which is March 31st, 2024. So you do not have a deadline. The sooner you participate, though, the sooner that CANARIE can fund you in these initiatives. If you are already part of an initiative, we can work with your OCCA and ensure that once your OCCA is signed, we can work to take over that required cost if it is one of our initiatives. Our organization is already using CIRA DNS Firewall. How can we benefit from the program's funding? If you're already using CIRA DNS Firewall, that's a great accomplishment so far. We just need to actually get an OCCA agreement executed with you for us to be able to help you benefit from this funding. So we can take that over and able to pay CIRA on your behalf, but we do need that agreement to be executed so that we can actually do that. Next slide, please, Christina. And I'll hand it back to you, Kevin.
Thanks so much, Laura. So now we're going to talk about the first three programs that we're offering: the CIRA DNS firewall, the CanSSOC threat feed, and the IDS, the former JSP. And we've actually brought in some experts to talk to you about each of these. So next slide, please, Christina. So Mark Gaudet from CIRA is here to talk about the CIRA DNS firewall service. So I will turn it over to Mark.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. And it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. As on behalf of CIRA, we're really excited to participate in the CANARIE program and be one of the first funded initiatives. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of the service and some of the architecture and how it's implemented over the next 10 minutes. But just to start, the DNS firewall is a recursive DNS service. So we look at all of the DNS queries coming out of the network, compare them to multiple threat feeds, and decide whether to allow or block them. And if they are blocked, a user will see a customized block page for the organization. And the value of doing this at the DNS level is that pretty much every application, every device in the network uses the DNS to make queries, and that includes both legitimate as well as malicious applications. So by looking at the DNS, you can see all of the network activity, what applications are being used, what malware exists inside the network, as well as a view on user behavior, what malicious sites are they trying to access, or phishing sites. Right now, the service is widely deployed. It's been in service since for the past 3.5 years. We have probably 500 organizations using it with more than 2 million users behind it. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so and what we are seeing in universities, colleges, CEGEPs, as part of the program, there were already, when the program was launched, we already had 43 organizations using the service, and in December we've added another 20 as part of the CANARIE program. So it's got already a high level of adoption. So we have a lot of experience in running it, and we are seeing a lot of blocks. So the level of blocks that happen university college environment is quite high relative to other public sector organizations. So student Wi-Fi tends to have some of the most blocks, the highest level of malware running, and what we're blocking there would be the command and control for botnets that are installed on those devices. Just, some sample, we'll see a couple of blocks per users or more per month, seeing, billions of queries per month across the educational sector. Can you go to the next slide, please? So the DNS firewall is an incremental layer of protection, but it's more than that. We're trying to develop a vision for the national DNS security service. So at the bottom, we'll have organizations using the service, sending their DNS queries up to the DNS firewall. One aspect of the ecosystem and vision of this is that we are taking in external threat feeds. So one of them is from CCCS. Another key one is we've integrated the threat feed that's being produced by CanSSOC. So any threat that CanSSOC identifies and adds to their threat feed is instantly going to be applied to the DNS firewall. So at a DNS level, a new threat will be blocked almost instantly across our infrastructure. So that's one of the easiest ways to integrate with CanSSOC and consume that threat feed, just by pointing your DNS queries towards us. Another key aspect of this is with 60 plus and growing to 100 higher ed organizations using this service, we see a lot of data, and the threat data is one aspect of it. So we get a really good view of what the threat landscape across the sector looks like. what type of malware is existing, what types of threats, phishing threats specific to higher ed, as well as all of the botnets operating within that sector. And this data is really dynamic, really interesting in that it changes day to day and week to week what threats are peaking and where they're happening. And with the DNS data, we see that data is going to be, it's not happening exact yet, but the vision is to leverage the DNS data to feed more threats into CanSSOC. So much like I'm going to talk a bit about how Akamai, our partner, develops their threat feed from DNS data, but we are starting to work on projects to identify new threats within the DNS. We've had a research project for the past year and a half with CIC at the University of New Brunswick, looking at the DNS data, identifying new botnet command and control, looking for phishing domains. So we could take an organization's name, say using CIRA as an example, we could look in the DNS data and see if there's any queries for variations on the name CIRA and identify maybe specific phishing threats targeted at us that might not be in the external threat feeds. Applying machine learning to identify specific threats within that. So it will create opportunities for cybersecurity research organizations at the universities to leverage the data, to run algorithms against the data to see if they could detect specific threats, as well as, more importantly, feed information into CanSSOC so they can enhance their threat feed. So that's kind of, by participating, it's creating, you know, an ecosystem around the DNS that includes threat landscape data, DNS data, and threat feed information coming in. We can go to the next slide, please. Some of the architecture highlights. We partnered with Akamai for the software of this service. CIRA owns and operates a service, so we have DNS servers and proxy servers in data centers shown here. The control or management software for the service operates in AWS in Canada, so all of the data stays in Canada. It's 100% owned and operated by CIRA. We've organized what this looks like from your perspective would be 2 single IP addresses. We anycast the sites, so Toronto and Vancouver are anycasted, Toronto and Calgary are anycasted together, so they share one IP address and you're routed to the closest site based on layer 3 routing. Montreal and Vancouver are anycasted together as well. And then we've located some servers inside RISC. So if you are a member of RISC, then if you point to the IPs, these are different IPs. If you point to the IPs inside the RISC network, then you'll be able to access some hosted content on the RISC network and redirect some traffic that might go to content over your internet connections would go directly to the RISC hosted content. The service is really fast, so you know, typical you would see like 18 milliseconds would be a common response time from the service for CANARIE members. So very fast relative to other services, and it's high performance, high capacity software from Akamai. We have capacity to answer more than 1 million queries per second across all of the sites. Go to the next slide, please. So the DNS firewall is positioned as an incremental layer of protection. So it's not meant to replace physical firewall or antivirus software or other security measures you have in place, but an incremental layer. And one of the reasons it does serve that purpose is that it has a different threat feed produced from different data. So Akamai sees 3% of all DNS queries globally and roughly 30% of all web traffic based on their CDN service they operate. So they receive an anonymized stream of DNS queries from their large ISP customers and have a good view on global DNS activity. Their data science center receives roughly 1 million DNS queries per second, And they keep track of every domain name that's been queried in the last 60 days. And where they focus a lot of their data science is on newly seen domains. So from the first time a domain is seen, it's analyzed and added to the block list in less than 14 minutes. And a lot of that activity is where we'll see algorithmically generated domain names or new phishing domains that are up only for a short period of time. They're adding roughly 100,000 new domains to that threat feed daily. So on the right, there's a little bit of a diagram of their flow. So you'll see DNS queries coming into the data science center. They'll do unsupervised machine learning, cluster them. They also have 37 other threat feeds, commercial and public. So they'll cluster a group of domains. They'll see if any of the IPs, or based on domain reputation system, if any of those can be associated with malicious activity, and then decide whether to block. So they look at a whole bunch of features, IP addresses, who owns those networks, the IPs, the domain reputation, patterns in DNS queries to identify malicious domains. And one of the really interesting things on the DNS side is that you can block something before you fully analyze what the threat is. So they can block by association with other things on the threat feed. And because their business is more carrier and ISP based, they're very good at not having false positives. We have close to 2 million users behind the service, and we will see maybe at most one domain per week that's questioned with respect to being a false positive. And in most cases, that is usually a domain that has been a good domain, but has been compromised. Go to the next slide, please. Some of the features of the service, there's a simple user interface portal where you'll see blocks by different types. So there is content filtering with 60 or so content filtering categories, which lets you, also has the capability to override the content filtering with an allow list or do customized block lists. You'll have a customized block page. So if one of your users tries to access a phishing site, they will see a customized block page with information on what they can do. The product has a full API for all functionalities. So one of the things you can do with this is pull the block data and put it in a SIM to correlate it with other information. Go to the next slide, please. The configuration is pretty straightforward. So there's no software or hardware on your network. It's configured simply by forwarding your DNS queries from existing internal resolvers. So, 95% of our customers would have Active Directory on their network as serving internal DNS, and they would configure Active Directory to forward to the DNS firewall. There'll be 2 IPs for redundancy. So based on our anycasted server sites, both IPv4 and IPv6. So DNS queries hit your internal resolver, are forwarded to the DNS firewall compared to the threat feed, allowed or blocked. One of the other important things to understand about the service, there's also a proxy server component. So if a user looks up a site that's blocked, the DNS server will answer back with the address of the proxy server. The user's HTTP traffic or HTTPS traffic will then go to the proxy server where the URL is inspected and the block page is served up. So it's important to understand that there's a proxy server as part of the service. And when you're configuring the service within the DNS portal, you configure the networks, or we identify customer traffic based on the source IP address. So DNS queries, when they hit our server, we look at the source IP, we pull the policy for those and apply policy based on the source IP, and all of the reporting associating them with you is based on the source IP. So it's important to understand what IP addresses the DNS firewall will see for DNS queries, as well as HTTP traffic. So pretty straightforward to configure. And for each of those source IPs, or we call them networks within the portal, you can apply different policies. So if student Wi-Fi comes out of exits the network from a different IP than your internal corporate network, then you can apply different policies and see reporting differently based on that. And I think that's my last slide. Go to the next slide. Oh, I jumped ahead and skipped all of my animation here. So to get access, it's important to get the OCCCA form filled out. If you're an existing customer of CIRA for the firewall, once we get that form, we can give you a full refund, and CANARIE will take over payment of the service. And then, as I said, you configure IP addresses, create custom block pages, and then decide what policies. You can enable the CanSSOC threat feed. And then internally, to turn it on, basically just start forwarding DNS queries. So minimal effort to set up, and once it's running, you'll get the automated threat feeds that are updated constantly, and hopefully high value in the block rates. So thanks, and we'll be happy to answer any questions once we're complete. Back to you, Kevin.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. To talk about the second initiative, I'd like to ask Jill Kowlachuk from CanSSOC to take over and give her presentation.
Perfect, thanks, Kevin. So I know I can see a number of people attended yesterday, but there are a few new attendees. Next slide, Christina. So I'll work really hard to get through the initial content as quickly as possible. And I know we're sort of running out of time, and spend a little bit more time focusing on the actual threat feed. So really quickly, CanSSOC is not an independent organization. We are a collaboration initially between universities, but we're now growing to include colleges and polytechniques. You become a member in CanSSOC by signing up to any one of our services. So if you sign up to the threat feed initiative, then you will become part of the CanSSOC community. And so our mission is better than we can do on our own, always in partnership. And so, well, we started with a small number of institutions, initially only as a proof of concept. We have transitioned, and as I've noted, membership is open to all connected institutions. We are the community working collaboratively to identify and understand information security challenges for our sector, but also to work collaboratively on the development and implementations of solutions that are targeted and tailored to the post-secondary community and to our needs. As many of you know, the requirements we have are very similar to what you see elsewhere in the cybersecurity or information security landscape, but oftentimes certain components of it don't necessarily work for our sector. And so we're really looking to work with the community, understand these challenges, and work towards either developing or acquiring solutions that will help in that space. While foundationally the members of our organization are institutions, we are only one piece of this puzzle. The information security ecosystem, as you've heard today and in many other talks, includes many other organizations. And CanSSOC is really eager and working closely to work with these organizations and the institutions to bring together these pieces to provide the most effective solutions and intelligence and support that's tailored and targeted to our sector. Next slide. So we use the NIST framework to support our cybersecurity discussions. The NIST framework outlines 5 areas: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Our focus very much is in the detect and respond categories. So we're looking to see how can we work with others who are also working in this space. Many of the NREN partners have SIM deployment projects and other initiatives, and we're looking to augment and support this to really help grow the services and solutions in this space for the sector. If you're in the information security space, you know that detection and response is one of the hardest and most expensive challenges we have. And so we're really looking to see what technologies, tools, people, process can be built to better support this big challenge for the sector. Next slide. So our focus in this is around operational coordination. We know CANARIE does an exceptional job around coordinating the sector in a wide variety of areas, including information security through this program. And CanSSOC's looking to augment and support this by really focusing on the operational side. So we are looking at data, pulling in data from different sources. We have hired experts and analysts, and we're working with the different sectors and different partners like the NREM partners around how can we pull together these different pieces, different intelligence, different data sources and technology to really coordinate and improve the detection and response we see across these sectors. So in this sort of pie chart, you see there are a wide range, a set of organizations that we note here. We've noted the NREN with the, mentioned the SIM deployment project. There's, if you're in Ontario, there is an on-check program. They're also running a few other things. The Cyber Center you might have worked with already. They provide a number of different products and solutions, one of which Mark mentioned earlier around, which is Aventail, their threat feed. We are working with them and consolidating their threat feed when we provide out our threat feed. And we're also working with other global partners. And I'll speak to Ren ISAC and a few others later on in the presentation. Next slide. So while we're focusing on detection and response, threat feed is one of the components of this. For those who are familiar with what a threat feed is, obviously threat feed spans across a number of key components in the NIST area. The great thing about threat feed is it allows us to leverage what we've learned in some of our other areas and in other detection and response tools and technologies, and provide out that intelligence to a wide range of institutions that have a wide range of resources dedicated to the information security space. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail on this slide. So first, when you look at our threat feed includes some of our own intelligence that we have generated. That intelligence comes from partner institutions. And so we have an automated process which we pull in different intelligence from institutions. Partner institutions can also, once they have access, manually go in and add additional sort of indicators into the threat feed platform that we have. So I know there was a question about can we submit a DNS domain for blocking? If you sign up for the threat feed, the answer is absolutely. And when you submit that, we do a quick vetting of it, but it is then included and submitted out as part of the block list. Other sources that we consolidate. So the first one is CCCS, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, which we've noted before. They have an Aventail product. Some of you might have already signed up for it. If you sign up to the threat feed, you will get that as part of it. They're commercial. We've signed up with a commercial partner and we include their intelligence as part of it. We also look on Twitter when different indicators are put out on email or through other partners. If we are authorized to, we include this in the threat intelligence. So one of the questions that I know has come up on a call I was on in December was, how do you decide? What about other threat intelligence sources? As we move forward, we're really keen to work with the community. So everyone that signs up for this to investigate what other intelligence sources should be included. Should we add additional commercial intelligence? Is there a way in which we can negotiate a deal so that not everyone has to go out and sign up? Is there another open source solution that would provide a lot of benefit? And so we're looking to expand what you see on the left-hand side. The advantage of doing that as part of CanSSOC is that not every single institution needs to go out and curate, find which sources are good, create it in a platform, configure it in their different devices. It can be done once and then ingested into your different devices. So the threat feed platform that you see in the middle of this diagram, we're using MISP. It's an open source solution that allows us to pull in a variety of different sources and share it out in different fashions. If you have sort of a maturity in the threat intel side and you stand up your own MISP instance, which you can pull in our threat intelligence and also add and curate your own, and even choose to share that back with us, which we're very eager to bring on new partners that share back intel with us. Having said that, if you don't have the resourcing on campus to curate and manage threat intelligence yourself, which we know is the case for a number of the eligible institutions, there's a wide range of ways in which you can leverage the threat feed in a much simpler and easier way. Mark's already talked about one in great detail. That's the DNS firewall. And so if you're interested in using the CanSSOC threat feed in your DNS firewall, it will be provided in the list. And with the check of a button, you would automatically be using our threat intel inside your DNS firewall. In addition, if you also have a next generation firewall on campus, then we would encourage you to get direct access to our threat feed. We provide our threat feed out in a curated block list, so you can configure this inside your next gen firewall and automatically block off of that. We had an institution configure and do this just before the holidays and found that their traffic dropped by 30%, which means they were blocking about 30% of their traffic was deemed malicious and was no longer getting into their campus network. So we're seeing a lot of benefit for institutions if they implement in this way. And then you're open to take this threat feed and integrate it into any and all of the other devices you may have on campus to provide you with more intelligence. Next slide. So really quickly, I'll talk about onboarding. The first and most important step, as Laura's talked about, is to sign the agreement with CANARIE. Threat feed is targeted for a later deployment, just to help institutions manage onboarding to a different set of initiatives. Having said that, as many of you on the call know, you may have already signed up with CanSSOC. We will be transitioning all of those users as part of the program. The most important step is that you sign that CANARIE agreement. So if you're using the CanSSOC threat feed or you want to use the CanSSOC threat feed, please follow all the steps that has been mentioned today and sign up and sign that agreement. Once you've signed the agreement, if you're interested in getting access to the threat feed, we have a confidentiality agreement we also need you to sign. That basically says that, well, you'll have access to all of this intelligence we give, you agree not to reshare it. It's obviously a requirement from the Cyber Center, as well as with our commercial partner. We have signed agreements that allow us to share it with you, but need to make sure that you honor not resharing it to others. It also provides the flexibility that if you would like to share information and intelligence with us, we will also keep that confidential. One of the other things we do as part of the basic detection and response is institutions have contacted us and identified alerts or compromises on campus. We've worked with them to help with their detection and response and provide advice and guidance for the remediation. We've also taken that intelligence, anonymized it, and then shared it out with the broader community. So as you sign up, you will get access to and receive this additional information. We've had a number of institutions see the value in partnering with CanSSOC in this way because we can anonymize it. So while the institution is really eager to share out with their partners and they're in the sector what has happened, they don't necessarily want their name attached to it, and we can provide some of this flexibility. If you're interested in integrating this into your firewall, I will say it's a simple and quick process for those institutions that have already done it. They've noted it takes about 2 to 3 hours of effort on their network administrator to then take advantage of blocking off of that feed. So with that, I will pass it back to you, Kevin.
Thank you so much, Jill. The last of the programs that we're going to talk about is the IDS program. Many of you probably know it as the old JSP, which is the Joint Security Platform. I'm going to cover the first few slides, just talk generally about what the program is, and then we're going to have Iman Akbari from the University of Waterloo go over his presentation, which is basically one of the groups that we've asked basically to create a platform to be able to view what we gather with this tool. So they've built a really nice interface to be able to see what's happening. So I'll hand that over to him after the next few slides. So Christina, slide 1, please. Thank you. So the idea of the IDS is basically to strengthen the overall security by increasing awareness and understanding institutional security issues and potential vulnerabilities. So IDS is intrusion, the detection system for those who don't know. For those of you who have already signed up for the JSP, which is 137 of the EOs that we currently have, this program is basically replacing that one, so there's no need to do anything beyond what you've already done. However, the 70 plus groups that have not yet signed up, we would really like to get you on board and help you out. So next slide, please. So what will you receive if you sign up for IDS? And once again, this is all of those who are not currently involved in the JSP. You'll basically receive a Dell server with Zeek, which is the IDS tool. You'll have that installed. You'll receive lots of training from us, support from us, and we're actually giving you up to $15,000 for you to be able to install it, to set it up, to rack it, and basically to get it running and operational in your EO. Next slide, please. What are the IDS JSP objectives? To generate some accurate and actionable and timely threat information, to be able to really see where we're at, and to get a really good measure of what risks are out there and what information we're seeing, and to be able to track the threats, trends, threat actors, and be able to benchmark our security. At this point, I will turn it over to the University of Waterloo.
Thank you very much. So hello, everyone. My name is Iman Akbari, and I'm here to share with you an overview of University of Waterloo's involvement in the CANARIE IDS project. So to briefly summarize our objectives in this project, we wanted to create a strong security monitoring infrastructure, allow for flexible and arbitrary access by all members to their own data and letting them do pretty much whatever they want with it. We had a very strong focus on artificial intelligence based on the research that we've been conducting for years in order to automate tasks that are hard to do by humans. Also, threat intelligence sharing and leveraging the power of the community to help each other secure our networks. And this is essentially a project by the universities, 40 universities, so there's a lot of potential in the community there. Next slide, please. Next. So how does it work? It starts with the sensors installed in the university networks all across Canada. The logs from these sensors are securely aggregated in a centralized location. Next, please. And there it is fed into our data analytics platform, which is mostly based on outlier detection and mining the network connection graph. It also helps the IT staff by scoring threats and allowing them to invest their time efficiently into what matters the most. Next, please. Lastly, we serve a user-friendly platform with customizable visualizations and analytics that the staff from the universities are able to access and explore threats in their own network, generate insightful statistics and reports, and also use it for data and intelligence sharing, as well as education of their own members. Next slide, please. So how do we assist you in detecting threats and securing your networks? Well, again, we apply the data science and artificial intelligence to the logs. And this way we can perform the kinds of analytics that's almost impossible for humans to do manually and empower the security analysts in their jobs. So we have a very strong focus on anomaly and outlier detection in this project, which in machine learning terms are often called unsupervised learning. And basically unsupervised learning means that we leverage the vast amount of data that we receive from multiple institutions and correlate them in order to establish what normal should look like and detect events or user behaviors that seem fishy or weird or off in a sense. So some of you might be familiar with UVA software, and what we do does have a lot of overlap with that. With the key difference that is fully based on artificial intelligence and not rule-based as opposed to some of those softwares. To put it simply, we process all the logs ingested in our platform on the fly, automatically correlate their features, and mark those that look out of place as anomalous. Next, please. Next, please. So another key direction is that we leverage graph analytics and graph mining to detect anomalous behavior and more complex threats, such as botnets. And connection logs make up for most of the data that we currently receive, and connectivity graphs are a very natural and fitting way to model that data, as they directly reflect the structure of these logs at its purest form. And by mining and analyzing these giant graphs, we can do the kind of complex threat hunting that is, again, extremely hard to do manually and using traditional tools. Next slide, please. So now that we've covered what's going on under the hood, let's go through the main features that we can provide. And so one of our most pivotal features in this project is the CANARIE IDS notebooks, which we are really excited about. And the notebooks are based on Apache Zeppelin and served as a cloud service, a platform as a service to all our members. And they allow for flexible and arbitrary access to the data for querying, visualization, threat hunting, analysis, artificial intelligence, documentation, and much more, all for cybersecurity. And with this kind of flexibility of what we can do, because this is a general purpose platform, we can keep rolling out new features as the project continues and the features will evolve. So here, as you can see, there are multiple photos in the slide. So if you get this, yeah. So we provide the CANARIE IDS portal based on Kibana, and which is the favorite visualization tool to many analysts around the world. And university personnel can explore network anomalies and potential threats, as well as general statistics in their networks. And they can even create their own visualizations and reports. And we have integrated the portal to work hand in hand with the other parts of our platform. So this is more of a conventional visualization tool. Next slide, please. So now let's explore some of the features in the IDS notebooks. So we mentioned connectivity graphs before, which are used to detect anomalous behavior in the endpoints and detect complex behavioral threats, which is a higher level of analysis, the behavioral analysis. So this is one of my favorite features. The analyst can go ahead and pick at any time interval and see the most suspicious endpoints based on a complicated analysis of the connectivity graph, along with a suspiciousness score out of 5, so that the team can prioritize what to look into first, which is really important nowadays because alert fatigue is a major problem. They can choose to see a specific host or all the anomalous endpoints, customize their view, and also explore the data using a 3D bird's eye visualization of the network, which is not possible using conventional tools. And for example, at a glance, I can see all the anomalous endpoints in a different color. I can see who they're interacting with. I can see these clusters of suspicious endpoints. And it's really intuitive. I can zoom in. I can study a who's who of my network anomalies. And it's a very modern way to explore the data. I will also get a world map view of where the anomalous endpoints are geographically located. So please proceed to the next slide. One of the features, one of the other features in the network, in the notebooks, is that you get to navigate your data the way that you're most comfortable with. So again, because this is a general purpose platform, for example, let's say I'm an analyst and I'm more familiar with SQL queries, and I don't really like, for example, Kibana or Lucene or whatever is provided to me out of the box. So here, for example, I can go on, pick a time interval, push a button, go on writing SQL queries to get some of my latest logs, and I can see the results right in my web browser. Can we have the other picture? Thank you. I can see the results from right in my web browser. I can export it as an Excel sheet for a report, for example. And the bottom line is you get to explore the data in your own way. Another important feature is that I can add documentation and notes to the investigation and basically attach a story to the notebook. If I'm willing to share the results and these know-hows or these documentations with the community, I have the option to do so in the CANARIE IDS Hub, or I can just keep it as an internal documentation for onboarding new members, for example, which is useful. Please proceed to the next slide. As another example of how notebooks can be used, let's say, for example, we want to train customized ad hoc machine learning models. So here we can pretty much pick our hyperparameters, pick a custom time interval, train a model. I can pick from my trained models and apply it to customized date intervals. And again, at the push of a button, I will have the results in my web browser. I can see the results of, for example, the top network anomalies. And down there, if I wish, I can choose to share some of that information with the other institutions as well, without its sensitive parts, for example, the internal IPs, of course. And the others would have access to this data in their CANARIE IDS portals and notebooks. So the project is both an enabler to the community and the free data exchange, as well as acting as a platform for allowing for research teams to plug in their solutions without having to prepare all the boilerplate and all the heavy infrastructure. Next slide, please. So in summary, our new platform provides a hardened security infrastructure, high scalability, and extremely flexible access to the data. The Notebook Cloud introduces new and exciting ways to explore the data. And using unsupervised machine learning, we are able to detect anomalies that are difficult to detect by humans. Threat intelligence sharing is made possible through our platform, and we also intend to remove the barriers to entry for research teams and other teams in all of the members of the project, so that they can basically plug in their own solutions into this platform as well. Thank you very much, and that should be my last slide.
Okay, thank you so much, Iman. At this point, we're going to take some questions. I did want to point out that we are going to stay on until all of the questions have been answered. So if there are any new questions, please feel free to ask, and we will review the questions that came in so far and that have been answered. So please feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A section, and maybe we'll start. There was a question from Patrick that said, what are the metrics that we will need to share? Can we opt out of some of them if we judge one of them would impact our privacy? The simple answer to that is we would need to see at the time. All of these are basically meant to be very general, so there shouldn't be any information that we're gathering in those metrics that would be very specific to your EO and should really raise a privacy concern at the time, but we're happy to deal with that on a case-by-case basis. There is another question asking about please send out the slide deck. All of the people who are on the webinar will receive a link by email to today's slide deck and the presentation. There's a question from Simon. How can we apply to these programs and what is your turnaround time for each? Laura, if you don't mind maybe answering that one.
So once you actually apply to have an OCC executed, we usually try to get that OCC out to you to execute, which is usually sent through to your signing authority. So not everyone sees the agreement, and it's usually about a week turnaround time. If you have any more questions, you can actually also follow up to cip@canarie.ca as well.
Thank you so much, Laura. The next question from Owen, who can we contact to verify that our OCCA has been received? I filled out the form in December, but I still don't think we've received anything back. Laura, you answered this one. Hi, Owen, please reach out to cip@canarie.ca and we will verify the agreement.
We already have verified the agreement too while the webinar was going on, and that was sent out approximately a week after they had applied. So. But feel free to reach out if you haven't heard from us.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. Simon had a question. Can an EO add or submit domains to be blocked? Jill has responded, saying that she answered this question in her presentation. You can submit through the CanSSOC threat feed and it will be included. There's a question from Travis, CIRA DNS. Any news regarding plans for a CIRA DNS roaming client comparable to the Umbrella DNS filter? Mark, if you're still on, if you could take that one maybe.
Sure,
Actually, I think
Kevin.
you've answered it
So
already.
The answer is yes, and we'll be rolling out roaming agents. So this would be software that would run on a mobile phone or a laptop. So when a user leaves the school network, they're at a Starbucks, the DNS queries would be directed to DNS firewall and they'd still be protected. Those will be coming out in the April timeframe.
Thank you, Mark. Another question. Hello, we are in the process of deploying the CIRA DNS firewall. And one of the limitations that we have seen is that CIRA doesn't provide the IP address of the infected asset. It provides the IP of the DNS server. Is there any plans in your roadmap to resolve this limitation? And Mark, you answered that one too, but maybe I'll let you just go over it again.
Sure, Kevin. So this is a good point. So what we only see DNS queries exiting out of the network with one IP. So we don't have visibility from a DNS perspective of the internal IP addresses. So this does pose a challenge if there is a botnet we identify, then you'd have to correlate the block data with internal DNS data to isolate that IP address. So that does add an extra layer of work. And it's kind of we don't have anything in the roadmap right away to address that. It kind of changes. We'd have to run DNS software inside your network and replace Active Directory, for example. So it creates more complications. So providing the level of protection and disabling botnets, I think, is priority versus identifying the IP.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Another question, we are in the market for a next generation firewall. Are there any particular vendors that CanSSOC works with? Or could we expect to be able to integrate with any popular next generation firewall? Jill has responded to this, basically saying that they have worked with institutions deploying on all of the popular next gen, in particular Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet. We are open to working with organizations and supporting integration into others as well. Any more questions about that, please feel free to reach out to Jill directly at CanSSOC. And finally, the last question that I have here, is threat feed already fed to risk next generation firewall VDOMs? And Jill has responded saying not yet, but we are eager to discuss with risk institutions at the appropriate time. Just going to take a quick look if any other questions came in. I think that's all of the open questions right now.
There was one more. They were just asking to confirm the email address, and it is CIP for Cybersecurity Initiative Program. So CIP@canarie.ca.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura. All right, if there's no other questions, I want to thank you all for joining us, and I want to thank all of our speakers. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and we will talk to you guys all soon. Have a great day.